Hi, my name is Scott Ryan-Hart, and this is my presentation for my usability study associated with JetPens.com. JetPens is an online retailer for pens, pencils, sometimes some brushes, brush pens, and those sort of things, as well as high-quality paper products. It's a Japanese company, so I think some of the translation issues might be one of the reasons why it's difficult to navigate. The reason I chose JetPens is that it is a retailer I've used before, and I've had some difficulty using it to be able to find items for me to research and see if I actually want to buy them, as well as to just kind of browse through and do some window shopping there. I found that it's very good if I'm looking for a very specific item, but other than the specific item, I haven't found it as a very useful platform to be able to search and just kind of find things that might be good to use. So, in that regard, this particular usability test, I'm focusing on the ability to find a specific item, a family of products, and a group of product types. What I mean by that, especially like, for example, my tasks are broken up into that. The first task is to find a particular marker ink refill cartridge. The second one is to find 0.3 millimeter mechanical pencil, drafting pencils that are between the prices of $10 and $20, hovering around the $15 range. And the third task was to find all the white ink pens and be able to look at the white ink pens and decide from there what I wanted to do. So for this test, it ended up being 10 items long, 7 questions with the 3 tasks embedded in between there. The first set of questions were my screener questions, and then the second set of questions were follow-ups to task 1. Third set of questions was a follow-up to task 2, and the final set of questions was an overall understanding of how people used JetPens in general. So with the results of this project, 17 people started, 12 people finished the test. Only one abandonment happened within the test. Of the people who started the test and did not finish, I actually talked with one of the people, and she said that she started the test using an iPad and then quickly realized that the iPad wasn't going to work. So she went back, she abandoned the test, and then she went back and did it on a PC. So for these screener questions, I focused the screener questions primarily on whether or not someone has used an online retailer for art supplies before, because I'm very specific to this. The other demographics don't really matter to me on this. Age doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter, location doesn't necessarily matter. It's more of a familiarity with using an online retail platform for art supplies. So that in mind, the first question is, have you purchased online art supplies before? 7 of the 12 people said yes, and this is because one of the places I advertised this usability test was an online artist community that I belong to, and I know that a few of the people there actually jumped in and did the test as a favor to me. So that I was very, very flattered that they did that, and I was very happy they did that. But in general, I would imagine if I just merely posted this on Facebook and Twitter, most of the people who took the test probably would not have purchased online art supplies before. The retailers that they've used previously, every single one of the people who answered this question said Amazon was one of them. Most of them said Dick Blick, a few of them said JetPens, and a couple of them said eBay. And then of these people, only 4 people had used JetPens before that they're absolutely positive about. So for task 1 was to find the marker refill. For this task, 7 of the 12 people actually landed on the correct page and hit, task complete on the correct page. Of the 5 people who did not and had a fail condition on this, 2 of those 5 actually hit the correct page at one point in time and then continued on to something else. In one of the instances, the person clicked on the correct item and I think added it to their cart and then hit complete task. Another person hit the correct item and then went back to the home page and then hit complete task. So I kind of consider those partial successes. but I'm not going to report them as successes as such. So with the answers for these questions, these people felt like it was pretty easy to do these tasks. Only one person seemed to think it wasn't easy to find the specific color itself. I would say about half the people, looking at the path analysis, about half the people actually went through the menus and got down to the ink refill selection, and other people just went straight to the search bar and found the item that way. For task 2, there were 3 people who hit the successful pages that I associated with this task, and I think it was 3 pages that I had selected as being success pages for this. Of that, 9 people failed at this task. Again, there were 2 people who hit the correct page and then continued on elsewhere. In this instance, both of those people went on to select a very specific item. They went to select one item instead of look at the family of items that met the criteria I was looking for. Again, most people found this was it was easy to find the appropriate item. Only one person disagreed with that idea, that this was easy. For task 3 is a particular favorite of mine because it's one of the reasons I've gone to JetPens previously, is to find white ink pens. And in many ways, this was a justification for my own difficulty finding the white pen. For this, there's an 8% success rate and an 8% abandonment rate. With 12 people, 8% translates into 1 person did it correctly and 1 person abandoned it, and 10 people hit incorrectly. For this particular task, there were not anyone who hit the correct pages that I'd selected as success conditions and moved on to other things. These were just kind of all over the board. But I think one of the reasons that this success rate was not as high as others was particularly how people consume information in a retail space. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in my analysis. So with the final questions, most people found this website easy to navigate. Most people liked how the categorizations were done. Only 1 person disliked them. And most people felt relatively comfortable using this website. So the analysis, there's a low success rate for each of these tasks. Why is that the case? Well, the low success rate for each of these tasks is happening because number 1, I think I might have, my success conditions may have been too narrow. I didn't have enough pages associated with being successful within the question, within each task, which made for a higher fail rate than intended. For example, with the white ink pens, I wanted people to completely filter out anything that wasn't a white ink pen. For example, if you just went over to the left and you selected ink pens and then you hit white, what would also show up were sets of pens that had a white pen within it. And I wanted to get rid of those sets of pens so you could just see the white pens. And I think most people just stopped at that stage, and which was close to being a successful thing. But as an online retailer, it's very easy to scroll through the 27 different items that were there and go, not that one, that's a set of pens, that's not a singular type of pen. So I think part of it was I did not have, my success conditions were too narrow. So I needed to open up those success conditions to more of a typical user instead of my very narrow defined success. The other thing that it may have been associated with this is that I feel the questions may have been poorly worded. The tasks may have been a little bit too nebulous and vague in some instances, and maybe I should have been much more specific. The other issue that might be coming into play for why there's a low success rate is that the site just might be confusing. I might have proved my hypothesis. I think it's easier to try to deconstruct as to why it didn't work within a rater issue instead of within the site issue in this case. What I found interesting was that the participant lack of success was not reflected in the responses to the questions. For one of those tasks, the white ink task, there was only 1 success. And that being the case, most people found that to be found navigating through the website was easy. So you have 11 people who did not complete that task correctly, in my estimation. And every single one of them found it was easy to navigate through the task. So I found that to be an interesting aspect of it as well, that the lack of success did not translate into feeling that the site was difficult to navigate. So, my conclusions. My conclusion is that JetPens is not organized very intuitively. That is a little bit cumbersome to navigate through, and it might be difficult to find the products that you're looking for. The other thing that I came up with is that Loop 11 may not be the correct test instrument. By this I mean Loop 11, when, at least in this version of it, it's almost like a guerrilla testing for this site, because I've kind of felt like some of the features weren't really hitting correctly. In so much as what I did find is that I found myself simplifying the test as I was setting up the test, because it was difficult to get the test to do what I wanted it to do. So in this case, Loop 11 may not be the correct test instrument. I think it would be very interesting to see if there was a way to use Loop 11 with a website that we could actually inject the code within, such that you didn't have this weird wraparound where you have the lag going from clicking on something and then waiting a while for that click to register and affect what you're looking at. And the other thing that I really noticed is that for this specific kind of test that I'm looking at, this test that I'm looking at, the directory structure and the difficulty browsing to and from with the different places within the website, I think a tree jack might have been a better test for this kind of process that I was doing. Because really what I was looking for is for people to drill down within the data structure and show me where they would find information. So this was my usability analysis for JetPens.com, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at Ryan-Hart at kent.edu. That's MRYANHA at kent.edu. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.